But yeah, so all characters come preloaded, with a wiring or a nature, right? Just like a game character has statistics and, skills and abilities. And, you're born into a certain environment. Like I was born in the hood, I was born in St. Louis. And so that environment kind of shaped me. The first 7 years are about developing your motor skills and learning how to adapt, right? You're learning how to move, how to speak, how to eat, how to go to the bathroom. You exist in a physical world, right? So you really like taking your first breath, first steps, things like that. And then from 7 to 13, your character starts to shift into like social skills, it becomes distracted, wants to, you start feeling yourself, right? You're learning how to interact, you're learning what your force is. You're comparing yourself to your siblings, to your mom, to your dad. You're recognizing a lot of differences, like, and your parents are telling you things about yourself too. So during 7 through 13 is when you start to see what makes you different, right? What makes you you. But it's also where conditioning kind of kicks in. It starts to shape how you see yourself. Other people are telling you about your character. So it's kind of hard to hear, your sisters, your brothers, your mom, your dad, and everybody telling you about your character. It kind of gets confusing. You start to believe what they're saying. And sometimes what they say about you isn't honest. Sometimes they're not right about you, but sometimes they're not wrong about you either. So we'll spin the block on that. So there's there's some danger when it comes to development without awareness. Like most people, they don't have a manual for their character's unique nature. Like, why am I so shy? Why do I do this? And this is where tools like astrology, cardology, human design, strength finders, the Myers Briggs, and all that stuff come in. These tools can help you understand your character's built in strengths, weaknesses, and patterns. But without these, most people feel like they're forced into a mode that may or may not fit them, you know? So, that could be traumatizing. So, my tool of choice is cardology, which you guys will be unfolding in the next couple of videos. I like cardology as my first tool of choice. It already has astrology built into it, but astrology full on would be like my second choice, but it's not my first. So the other tools, Myers Briggs, Strength Finders, things like that, those can change over time as you grow. Those change, but with cardology, your birthday is not going to change. This is how you're wired. This is your default. I was born on January 8th at a specific time in a specific city to certain parents. That's not going to change until I'm reborn again, right? So without cardology, I would say I was almost forced into a mode that did not fit me. But what I do know is that a lot of people were not necessarily wrong about me, but I was just like, what are they saying? What are they talking about? Like, I would start questioning, like, why am I like this? And so I started like course correcting and changing my avatar because I didn't like what people were saying about me. Some things I did like, like team, you're so kind, you're this, you're that. I like those things, but the other things that I didn't want to hear, it's kind of hard to accept. So I would go into the dangers a little bit more. So, like, imagine trying to wear clothes or shoes that somebody else has already messed up or worn and it hasn't been washed and it's kind of handed down. That's kind of like what it feels like when your parents have traumatized your avatar. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you trying to open up a credit card and you find out mom and dad already have a credit card open in your name, and so you got all these debts that you got to clean up. But that's just one example. But it's kind of like that when you're 13 and you're supposed to come into yourself, right? Your parents are supposed to hand you back the controller to your character, but they have abused it. You've probably been cursed out, probably been molested, probably been just beaten. And, now your character has all this pain, and you're meant to, as the operator and the player, to get inside of your character so that you can have the full effects. But it's hard to when you you putting on the arm and it's bruised up, you don't want to feel that pain. Or you step into the legs of your avatar and it's busted up, and or your parents probably overfed you. Now you got to carry the weight of being big boned, because when you were a kid you probably weren't big, and then you started getting big, and your parents then gave you donuts every day and Skittles, your teeth hurt, your eyes are sore, now you got to wear glasses, hair's falling out because your parents probably put a perm on your avatar, your character, and you're just not really ready to accept the full responsibility of wearing, this character that your parents have somewhat kind of ruined. Sometimes it's different, but for most of us, we're handed back our character, um, and we don't really like it. We don't like it. So we get stuck in like dissociation, right? We're already carrying our parents' fears, projections, the damage, and all of that. And so, like I said, we get stuck in dissociation. We detach because character don't feel like something we want to live in. That's our vessel, right? We don't want to get into it. We don't, nah, I don't want to show up as that. I don't want to show up as my character because I'm embarrassed of it. I don't want it no more. So a lot happens in the first 13 years. That's why I call it tutorial mode. Then like I said, the first 7 years, you're just really learning. I'm a girl, I'm a boy, I gotta go pee, I gotta eat, I'm hungry, things like that. But 7 through 13, you start to form opinions about your character. Some people love their character, they start loving certain things about it. Like for women, if you got a full set of boobs or a nice little butt, all right, I like this, I fit in, I'm praised for these things, I'm confident. Or if you're a man, you probably start learning like, oh my gosh, I'm not as big down there. Oh my gosh, I don't fit the mold of the Prince Charming guy. So you start learning to hate yourself, or you feel awkward. You could feel that way as a woman too, because I didn't get no boobs, around the age where a lot of girls did. I didn't start to feel out, so I started to feel awkward and unseen and a little misunderstood. But for me, it wasn't really about the physical things that I hated about myself. It was more about, I mean, there were some physical things. I hated that I was so skinny, and you know, but other than that, not too many things I was too mad at. But socially, I felt awkward. I would talk too much or use too many words or talk too soft, and I'd be like, why do I sound like this? Why do I sound like a kid? Why, these things, right? Why I don't get it the way that my sister got it or my brother got it? Like, why does it take me longer to understand certain things? Why do I need pictures and they are okay with just, a couple of words or whatnot? So I felt that that was the hardest thing. And so without guidance, you might reject your character entirely, you know? But I was fortunate to have positive, and I had a good balance of positive and negative feedback when it came to my identity. So I wasn't as confused, but I definitely didn't hate myself, but there were some behaviors that I was like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna act like that around these people because I heard their feedback loud and clear. So yeah, so we can get into why a little, as this podcast unfold, we're gonna hear a lot more. So if you guys have any questions that you want me to answer in the future, just put them in the comments. We'll address them for sure. See you in the next episode.